We head now to Taranaki, home of the Ranfurly Shield and one of provincial rugby's most famous grounds, the Yarrow Stadium in New Plymouth. Earlier this month it was closed due to earthquake risk, and the headlines at the time held little promise about it reopening. Closed for the foreseeable future due to significant earthquake risk at the grounds began one of many articles about its demise. Well, as Mark Twain might have said, demise was something of an overstatement. Yarrow will not close in full, just in part, because after searching the region for replacement venues, Taranaki Rugby believes it's better to have half of Yarrow than all of anything else. I asked their CEO, Jeremy Parkinson, is the stadium an earthquake risk?
Not in the capacity that we're using it at.
Right, can you explain that to me? It's clearly a wind risk there at Yarrow today, if that's where you are, but in terms of earthquake risk, there is part of that stadium that it is simply not appropriate for people to occupy, right?
Correct. So the East Stand, as we communicate now, is an earthquake-prone building with an E grade at 15% of built to 15% of new building standard, and that has been closed to the public. The West Stand, nothing wrong with the building. It is the ground that supports the building that there are concerns around in the situation where there's a significant seismic event and the stand is at full capacity with 4,900 people sitting in it. So the stadium owner, which is the Taranaki Stadium Trust, have erred on the side of caution and it's closing that facility to the public. So there will be no public able to sit in the bleachers, but we will be able to use it operationally. So Sky will be able to broadcast out of it, and there's other facilities that are tied into that, but it's just if there was a seismic event, and we're talking a pretty significant one, that they couldn't guarantee the safety of people sitting in that stand.
Right, so east and west are out, is that right?
Yep, correct.
And north and south is where the people will be for the games?
Correct, and those are the terraced ends, and one of them, I think the southern or the northern terraced ends, one of them has been operational since 1937. So I suppose you talk about, is it a risk? The last 16 years, the facility has been used in its capacity as it sits now, and it hasn't been. But obviously, with the events that have situated since Christchurch and the CTV building collapsing, everyone's got the microscope on themselves, and effectively that's the situation we face. So it's all about looking after the public. So
So I want to take your question. You say, is it a risk? So what you're saying is the east and west are too much of a risk and therefore they will be closed to spectators, but you and the powers that be are absolutely confident in the north and south?
Correct. There is no risk to the public.
Okay, and how many people can sit in the north and south?
14,000.
So that's a good crowd, isn't it? I mean, when you're defending the Shield, you might get a crowd that big, but with all due respect to the Mitre 10 Cup, 14,000 would be a hell of a big crowd, wouldn't it, if you guys were playing Southland? Correct.
In saying that, last year when Taranaki defended the Ranfurly Shield against Manawatu on a Wednesday night, after we picked it up off Canterbury, we had 9,500 people.
Jeremy, just remind me before you go on, who did you pick it up off again? Just say those
Canterbury.
Lovely words. Oh, God, how did that feel?
I wasn't here then, but yeah, it's been great, and the Shield's had a life of its own, where it's got its own diary, it's been booked out, it goes to a rugby club every weekend, it's at community events. So we're going to get good support this year, which we're really excited about.
And good support that will be safe when they are there.
Correct. That is correct.
Jeremy Parkinson, who is the CEO of Taranaki Rugby.